With the release of The Many Saints of Newark, there's obviously a renewed interest in The Sopranos and what the future could look like, guys. Whether we're talking a continued movie or a continued series in the form of television, it's really interesting, an interesting concept, guys, and we're going to break down all of that here in this segment of the show. We're going to talk about a Sopranos prequel series that very well could be on the way. And so I want to break it down with you guys, and we can have a real conversation about it in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. In an article written by Evan Romano of Men's Health, creator David Chase has been in talks to bring his world to HBO Max, with Michael Gandolfini potentially returning. So when The Many Saints of Newark dropped on HBO Max in theaters, it represented a return to the world of The Sopranos that fans haven't experienced since the original HBO series ended in 2007. While the film received something of a mixed, polarized reaction from both critics and fans, one thing is undoubtedly sparked is a further renewed interest in the already eternally popular series. And now we're hearing directly from the horse's mouth, the CEO of Warner Brothers, that more Sopranos could be on the way. So before we go any further, guys, I want to talk about my thoughts about The Many Saints of Newark. What I will say is this. I was very, very excited about the title from watching, obviously the trailers and things of that nature building up to when the film released. Seeing the movie, guys, it was awesome to return back to that world, to the Sopranos world. That being said, though, I did not really like the movie too much outside of the acting. I loved going back to that world. I loved the acting. I loved the casting of Michael Gandolfini, playing as Tony Soprano, an early version of Tony Soprano, taking over for his dad, which is absolutely awesome. And I love all the other actors and actresses, really, for the most part, involved in the movie. I just wasn't a huge fan of the direction that they took it in. I felt like it was slow at a multitude of different times throughout the story. But obviously, guys, I loved being a part, or, obviously partaking in going back into time with, going back into that world. So that leads me to what I'm really excited about here, is that even though I wasn't a huge fan of The Many Saints of Newark, I will tell you that it gives me a lot of hope for where they could go. And I think a prequel series makes a lot more sense to me than a sequel from The Many Saints of Newark. I think having a Sopranos prequel series makes a lot more sense, or like a spin-off or something of that nature. I would love to see that without question. It stands to make us wonder, upon the lukewarm release of the film, if going down the road that produced that same product is really what audience want. Yes, it would technically be the world of The Sopranos, but at some point, it stands to wonder if trying to tap into a creative process that created greatness 15 plus years ago is not quite as effective as looking into why that process worked and what can be tweaked to find similar and updated results for the modern age. Still, it's worth taking this news as at its face value. A new Sopranos series would undoubtedly find a huge audience, and even the show's fans who weren't totally into The Many Saints of Newark would probably at least be curious to check the show out. There are many more stories in Tony's life that can be told, even if we do already know how it's going to turn out. So, one thing, guys, the other thing with The Many Saints of Newark, I think that they could have certainly, in my opinion, I feel like they did kind of a disservice to The Sopranos by just calling it The Many Saints of Newark. I think there were a lot of people that didn't even know that The Many Saints of Newark was in The Sopranos series, or I should say in that universe. I believe that they should have called the movie The Sopranos and The Many Saints of Newark, or something of that nature. Something putting The Sopranos in there so people know, oh, okay, that's what this is. It's a part of The Sopranos universe. I think that would have made a little more sense having that in the headline of the title. But that being said, they didn't do that, and I think that having this show, I believe that it should be called like The Sopranos and The Many Saints of Newark, or it should have The Sopranos somewhere or another in the title of the show, so that people know, okay, this is definitely a part of The Sopranos, and it's going to get more and more people kind of on board when they see that it's a part of The Sopranos. So, will there be a Sopranos prequel series? Well, Warner Media CEO Ann Sarnoff confirmed in an interview with Deadline that there were ongoing discussions with Sopranos creator David Chase to bring viewers more of that world, despite the film's underperformance at the box office. It's given it an entirely new life, she said. We're talking to David about a new series, Sopranos, related on HBO Max. Many Saints in Newark literally lifted the Sopranos franchise in a new way, so you can't measure it in and of itself in the box office. So, obviously, guys, the Many Saints in Newark leaves viewers in a place where they might be eager to see what happens next. Dickie Moltisanti has just been whacked, killed by his uncle Junior Soprano because he disrespected him for falling down some steps and hurting his back. But Tony doesn't know this and clearly has some plans to really get into the family business after the death of his mentor. I am not so much interested in playing 30-year-old Tony, he said in an interview with Uprocks. I think if there's an interesting part after this movie before the show that we can explore something about Tony that hasn't been explored in his youth and his 20s. After that, we're getting a little too old. So who would be in the cast, guys? Obviously, this would probably be the trickiest part of pulling together the Sopranos prequel cast. The Many Saints in Newark established the actors who played the younger versions of Sopranos characters fans were already long familiar with, and they're quite famous. A series centered on Tony Soprano would obviously need to star Michael Gandolfini, who has said he'd be interested in returning, but it would also absolutely need to include his parents, Olivia Soprano and Johnny Boy Soprano, who are both very busy actors who may not be able to sign on to a series, which Vera Farmiga and John Berthal. So, look, do I think that this is going to happen, guys? I do think they're going to figure a way to make this happen without question. I just think that a lot of it comes down to, you greenlight one season and then you go from there. I think you try to make this the best possible season of this show that you can before greenlighting multiple, seasons. Make this the best you can. I think Michael Gandolfini is great as Tony Soprano. I think that should stay the same. And, from one point to another, guys, I really feel that this could be something special if they, of course, take on that source material and deal with it delicately for the audience. And I think it could be something pretty amazing. But with that being said, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Do you want them to make a Sopranos prequel series? Do you think they should do a sequel, movie? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more The Sopranos content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.